Hi, Nancy. It's good to see you again in Sarah's tent. How are you tonight?
Hi, Sandy. Good to be here. I'm doing fine. How about you?
I'm well. We've had a lot of rainy days here in Houston, so I'm ready for some sunshine.
Absolutely.
Well, just to refresh our listeners' memory, we are calling this in Sarah's tent because you might think, well, neither of you are named Sarah, so where did you come with the name Sarah's tent? Well, it's named after our matriarch, Sarah, one of the great founders of our faith. Her tent was open to visitors. She and Abraham were known for their hospitality and kindness. And in our logo, we have a tent with open flaps to represent everyone's welcome. And we have a candle in our tent because we've learned from a commentary that a candle burned in her tent from Sabbath to Sabbath. So that's where we get in Sarah's tent. And let's see what we've got tonight. I think we're going to be reading tonight from Genesis 1, verse 20 through chapter 2, verse 3. So, Nancy, if you would like to read that for us, and then we'll have some discussion.
Absolutely, Sandy. I'm going to be reading out of the Art Scroll Schottenstein Chumash translation. And I'm just going to say this so that people will have this background information. The chapters and verses are arbitrary. And so that's why we're hitting a little bit in chapter two, three verses in chapter two, because it's the continuation of the same story.
Right.
Just for
Okay,
information.
good. Thanks, Nancy.
All right. God said, "Let the waters swarm with crawling creatures, beings that are alive, and fowl that shall fly about over the earth across the face of the expanse of the heavens." And God created the sea giants, the great ones, and every being that is alive and that moves about, with which the waters swarm according to its kind, and all the fowl with wings according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas. However, the fowl shall increase on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning, a fifth day. God said, "Let the earth bring forth beings that are alive, each according to its kind, animals and creeping things, and beasts of the land, each according to its kind." And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, and the animal according to its kind, and every creeping thing of the ground according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, that they shall rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the sky, and over the animals over the whole earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. He blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, over the bird of the sky, and over the living being that moves on the earth." God said, "Indeed, I have given to you all herbage yielding seed that is on the surface of the entire earth, and every tree that has on it the fruit of the tree yielding seed. For you it shall be for food, and to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the sky, and to everything that moves on the earth. which has within it a soul that is living. Every green herb is for food. And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and indeed it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. And thus finished the heaven and the earth, and all their hosts. God completed on the seventh day his work which he had done, and he abstained on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because on it he abstained from all his work which God created to make.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. So we've completed days 5 and 6 now. Day 5, just to kind of recap, was the oceans were filled with all the creatures that are in the waters, the sea giants. It says it swarmed. I don't think of swarming in the oceans. I think of swarms of like swarms of locusts and swarms of flies and bees. But this says the oceans were swarming. So I think that's an interesting phrase. Everything was created according to its kind, and he saw that it was good. There's one phrase in there that I've noticed where he tells them to be fruitful and multiply. And I read in the commentary that it was important that he added the word multiply after be fruitful. The commentary said, had the verse not added and multiply, each creature would produce only one offspring. Multiply adds multiple births to the blessing, so each would bring forth many. That's according to Rashi. In this context, the phrase is a blessing that the creatures would have the capacity to populate the earth. Later, in verse 28, with relation to man, it was also a commandment that he engage in procreation. So I never really thought about it before. I've just always read that phrase as almost as one word, be fruitful and multiply. But it was actually two separate commandments. And I think it was interesting how important it was that second word, multiply, be added.
Yes, that's very interesting. And I look at those words, and I have noticed in our readings that they come up quite often. So let's keep an eye on those three actions: be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. So they have to spread out. They
Whoa.
can't stay in one place. They have to spread out and fill the earth. But it comes up several times in our reading. So let's just keep an eye out for those words.
Exactly. I had not thought of that. To fill the earth, they had to spread out. And later, jumping ahead several portions, at the Tower of Babel, they were scattered out all over the earth. So, yeah, it's important that we don't stay clustered in one spot. Good. I never thought of that before. That's a good point. On day 6, we get to the land animals. And verse 24, it said that the earth would bring forth. And that was something else that we've kind of touched on it in the past, that bring forth. It gives the idea that these animals were already in the earth, that they were created. In fact, we know that everything was created on day 1, and now the time had come for them to be revealed, I guess, that they came forth. You got thoughts on that, or have you read anything on that about they came forth from the earth?
I like that word revealed. Yes. That we, just like you said, we had mentioned earlier that we trust that everything is already there. It just hasn't been brought forth. So maybe if there's something that we need, it just hasn't been revealed or hasn't been brought forth. But everything we need was already made the first day.
Yeah, I like that. And in fact, in our commentary, it has a little bit on that. It says the potential was there on day 1. Everything was created on the first day, and its potential was there, but it had to come at the right time. And we've talked about that before. What if he had created what if the fish had come forth before the oceans were made? It just, I just love again the logic of creation.
And also, you'll see it in a little bit later on, um, that the vegetation comes forth because of um, the water. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
we'll see that a little bit later. Never mind. It'll come up in a couple of more weeks. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. That's what's fun about going back through the Torah when we know what's coming up. It's hard not to jump ahead and make those connections. So yeah,
Yes.
we'll put some spoilers and teasers as we go along. You are a vegetarian, if you don't mind my saying that, and you probably have something interesting to talk about where he says he gives us the vegetation, the herbs, and all of that. So, what you got?
Yeah. Yes. I think a lot of people just read right over that and don't think about it. But in in my reading of it, it seems like that's our original design was to be
Yeah,
vegetarian.
yeah,
Now we do know that later, after the flood, um, Hashem allows Noah and his family and the generations after to eat meat,
right.
but there are some caveats as to how to eat the meat. So, one of the things which I think is very interesting and very profound is, again, jumping ahead but related, we are not to eat the limb of a living animal. You think, well, who would want to do that? Just have a live animal and be gnawing on their leg? That doesn't seem appetizing. But
Right.
I think the point is that we need to be kind to animals.
Yeah,
That if we are going to eat them, then we have to um, slaughter them kindly or humanely. I don't know if humanely would be the right word, but carefully so as to be not to harm them and not to cause any distress to them. Because that's really just something that we're allowed to do, but we're not originally meant to eat meat. And just in my reading, that
yeah,
the original design was to be
yeah.
vegetarian.
And just thought that came into my mind. Wonder why it changed. I wonder why he gave permission later after the flood to eat the animals. Wonder why it changed, or that not that it changed because we still have the option. It's not a commandment to eat the meat, but it's an option. So I wonder why he put that option in. I'd never really thought about that before. Why did that become a option for us?
I had heard one of the rabbis, and I'm sorry I can't remember who, said that after the flood there was nothing else to eat. That
Oh,
the plants and everything had drowned in the flood, and so
right.
there was nothing else to eat other than the extra animals that he brought. He brought 7 pairs of animals that he would be allowed to eat.
Okay.
So I heard that that was the reason why Noah and his family and subsequent generations were allowed to eat animals.
Okay. I never thought about that, but yeah, when they came out of the ark, there would have been no um, crops and wheat and all of that. They basically had to start over. So yeah, okay, good. Anything else on day 5 that you wanted to bring up before we move on to day 6?
No, I think day 6 is a very interesting day.
Yes, it's kind of the culmination. It's like everything has been building up to this. It's the
Yeah.
grand finale, maybe, so to speak. So, Yeah, in verse 25, God made the beast of the earth according to its kind. Again, everything is made according to its kind. The creeping things, the the little creepy crawlies, according to its kind. And as you pointed out, I think it was was it day 3 where it said it is good twice? We see that again here in day 6. Rabbi Abner has talked about that this day also had a midday judgment. And Hashem looked at the animals and the fish and everything he had created, and it's kind of like creation is standing on a precipice, and Hashem is judging it. Now, do I go on and bring man into this, or do I stop? Is this it? So the day was judged twice. And fortunately, he decided, yes, let's move on. Let's go on and finish this day.
There is a
Uh,
difference also on the double judgment, if
okay.
I'm remembering right. Doesn't he say very good?
Yes, I think that's at the end of day 6 that he
Yeah.
said it was very good. And I think it's Rabbi Wolbe has said that that included the Yetzer Hara, that it was created, and he looked at it that everything that was created was very good. So I thought that was I'd never heard that before until I think it was Rabbi Wolbe that brought that in a lecture. So this verse, Nancy, I'm going to read it and then I'm going to hand it off to you to explain it because I really don't have an explanation for it. So verse 26, and God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." And I'm going to stop right there for now. So my question to you is, Nancy, we know Hashem, we know God has no form. He is not a man. I don't even know what kind of word to put on him. I just like to say he is. So if he has no form, what is this image? In what image are we made?
I heard a lecture by Rabbi Manus Friedman,
Mhm.
and he talked about this exact question. He said, well, if God has no image, how is man created in his image? And
Yeah.
so he said that it's kind of like, called it a ladder or a sequence of events. So in just um, so to speak, God imagined in his mind, he had a vision for this plan that he was going to do. And then he got emotional about it in his heart and was excited about it. And then he did it.
Oh,
So it's kind of like step 1, step 2, step 3. And Rabbi Friedman says step 1, the mind is the head. Step 2 is the heart. That's the emotional part, getting excited about it. And then the feet is actually doing it. And so man is the only one who walks upright. His head is above his heart, and the feet are below all of that. But animals have it backwards. Their feet, I mean, their head is not above their heart and their feet.
yeah.
So the animals are not made in the image of God, but that's the image of God, is the ladder or the sequence of
Okay.
the head over the heart over the feet, which is action.
Okay. Very good. I like that. I like that a lot.
I think
Yeah, I kind of
I've
was,
heard you. I
I'm
think
sorry.
I've heard you say that before. You might not have said it in this context, but I think you said something like that before about head over heart over feet. But
Oh, okay. I
I'll
don't
give you
remember that, but I would hope that I would be that clever, but I kind of doubt it. But
I don't think it was in this context, but it was something like
something
that.
else. Okay. And I kind of had this image come into mind. Um, if I'm understanding what you were saying, quoting Rabbi Friedman, I get a plan in my head. I get like if I'm going to make a dress, I visualize it in my mind, what I want it to look like. And then I draw out a pattern of it, and then I get everything I need to make it. So the dress, while the dress doesn't look like me, it's made in the image that I had of it. Is that kind of what you were saying? That God had this image of what he wanted man to look like, and then he created it?
Well, I think it was more that the step ladder or the sequence was the image of God. God works in this way. God
Oh,
has a vision, and then he gets excited about it, and then he does it. And
okay.
we made in that same sequence that our
Okay.
head is above our heart. So um, when we are in the image of God, we think about something and then get excited about it before we act on it. If we are working not in the image of God, then we get those mixed up and we will do something without thinking about it,
Okay.
or we'll let our emotions rule our head. Those things would not be in the image of God. So, in
Okay.
the image of God is that sequence.
Okay, I like that. That's a good way to look at that. Uh, and I'm so glad we have these rabbis and as resources to go to to find answers. The other thing that jumped out at me on day 6 was after God had created um, the man, the being, when the human being, he gave him dominion over the earth, over the animals, to rule over them, to subdue it. And I think about what does that actually mean when what is the responsibility that he has given us to subdue it? Does that mean like trample on it, to force it into submission? Is it more like taking care of it, loving it, being gentle with the earth, being gentle with the animals? So what are your thoughts, Nancy, on how do we have dominion over the earth and how do we subdue it?
Really, I have no idea about how that um, relates, other than just that it's not, I don't see it as ruling over it, like we're the boss of the whole planet, but more of we're responsible, kind of
Yes.
like, we're we're very much into ecology and taking care of the earth and taking care of the animals and making sure that we're, like I said earlier, being kind to the animals and then in extension being kind to the earth. You had mentioned last week that there are um, that there are rules about not cutting down fruit trees. So
Right.
yeah, we're supposed to be caretakers. That's my thought on it.
Okay. And again, jumping ahead, spoiler alert. We'll probably get to this next week when Adam was placed in the garden. It was to tend it and take care of it, not to trample on it, not to misuse it, but to take care of it. So I like that. We're to maybe follow that example and
Yes.
think about our environment and um, God is, it's actually a gift that God has given us, this beautiful place to live. And if you give me a gift, you're somebody that I respect and like. And so what you give me, I want to treat it well. because it would show my respect that I have for you, the way I treat what you give me. So maybe in some level, that's how we show God we appreciate what He has given us in this world by cherishing it, taking care of it. So good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if if I give somebody a gift and I see that they just crumple it up and throw it away, it's not going to make me feel very good.
Right. It's
I want
like,
them to take care of it.
exactly. It's like, well, why should I give them anything else if that's how they treat it? So, yeah, okay. Now, um, we move to really toward the highlight of day 6. Is everything is finished? Or, well, I won't say finished. We used the word Sabbath like it was finished, it was completed, but actually the word Shabbat means abstained. So after the 6 days, He's created man, all the animals. Um, he abstained, and then we come to the seventh day. What thoughts do you have on the seventh day?
Well, I have a lot of questions and not necessarily answers. So, a lot of people, like you said, consider it like a day of rest, like God rested. You hear that a lot, that that's the day of rest, or God rested on the seventh day. But He wouldn't need to rest. He's an all powerful, infinite being. Why would He need to rest? It
Right,
wasn't that much work. And if He did all of this work, why do we celebrate that by resting? Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to me.
right, right.
We
And
should have a party, you know? We should have a feast, a banquet, a party if we're going to celebrate all of God's creation. Why do
yeah,
we take a nap?
I understand. And it is a day of celebration. It is a day of joy. And I think I've read, maybe it's in the Siddur we feast 3 times a day on the Sabbath. It's not a day of um, restricting ourselves from enjoying the day. I think it has to do with creation, and He abstained from creating on the seventh day. So I know there's some teaching about we should not do anything that's creative on that day to honor it. And I know that you and I, as righteous non-Jews, that we have an obligation to remember the Sabbath because it is a remembrance of creation, and creation was for all the world. It was for everybody. And then at Sinai, it was given as a special sign for the Jewish people that it was between them and Hashem, that He's in 6 days He created. So they have responsibility on the Sabbath. We have our responsibility, but both of us together honor the day and recognize it as there is a creator. This world did not just happen, but there is a creator who is still, by the power that brought it into existence, is the same power that's keeping it in existence. So I think we have a place on the Sabbath day. So, um, any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I heard another rabbi, Rabbi Geller, tell a cute little story that I didn't know, to kind of give a, a sense of how to view the Sabbath. He said that Rockefeller Center is owned by the Rockefeller family, but they let the public use it. So it's like God owns the world, but He lets us use it.
Mm,
And every once in a while, the Rockefeller family will close down Rockefeller Center just to make sure that everybody knows who owns the center. And so he was saying that it's kind of like once a week, God says, you guys stop doing all of your work because it's mine. This is my domain. You guys just chill and know that I'm the one who created all this. So he kind
Yeah.
of gave that as an example that I thought was an interesting analogy.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I had not heard that before, but that's a good way to describe it. Let's just remember who this all belongs to.
Yes.
He created it, it belongs to him, and we need to at least, I mean, it'd be nice if we could remember that every day, that I'm a guest here. He's allowed me to be here. But it is all his. It all belongs to him. And then one day that this seventh, I think maybe we need to look at the Sabbath day as not part of the week, but we've got 6 days that make our week, and then this day is separate. This is a separate day. Look at it, separating the mundane from the holy, and just set that day apart. And there may be many different ways for us as non-Jews to do that and honor the day. So anyway, anything else, Nancy? We are kind of coming to the end of our time. Any final thoughts before we say goodnight?
No, I think this was a jam-packed section that we read, and we covered a lot.
We did. There was a lot to cover, and we could have gone into so much more. And kind of for a tease next week, we will get more into the creation of man and woman and what happened with them. So, anyway, we'll say goodbye for now and see you next week in
Sarah,
Sarah's tent.
good night.
Good night.